Hi there, and welcome back to Reddit Confessions. Today's story. Buckle up. This one starts not with a betrayal, but with silence. The kind of silence that echoes louder than any fight ever could. You ever sit at your own kitchen table and feel like a guest? That was me, on a Tuesday. 6:12 p.m. I remember the time exactly because the microwave beeped as I stared at the lasagna. The same brand she always bought. The same ceramic dish we got in year 5 of marriage. And yet something felt off. She didn't serve herself. She didn't even sit down. She just stood by the window. Arms crossed. Phone in hand. Smiling at a screen that wasn't me. No words. Just tapping. Smirking. And then, she laughed. Not the fake laugh she gives her sister on calls. Not the tired chuckle she gives me when I mess up the thermostat. This one was different. This one was intimate. That was the exact moment I realized I was no longer the punchline to her inside jokes. I wasn't even in the joke anymore. I didn't say anything that night. I just swallowed my food, blinked too many times, and stared at the dent on the fork. Something I suddenly noticed after 17 years of using it. You don't need a detective badge to know when you've been replaced. You just need a little silence. And the courage to stop pretending. The next day, I did something I never imagined myself doing. I followed her. She said she had a dental appointment. But when I pulled up to the clinic 20 minutes after she left the house, her car wasn't there. It wasn't even nearby. I circled the block. Twice. Then I saw it. Parked outside a bookstore cafe called Fern and Fig. A place she used to call overpriced nonsense for hipsters. Funny how her tastes evolved overnight. Through the window, I saw her. Laughing again. Same smile. Same glow. But this time, her hand was on someone's knee. He looked like the kind of guy who moisturizes and uses phrases like energy match. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel so hard I nearly snapped it off. I didn't barge in. I didn't call. I didn't scream. I just sat there. And remembered the envelope I found behind the bookshelf last month. The one labeled, just in case. I thought it was a will. Or maybe a surprise gift. Nope. It was a collection of printed emails. Love letters. Months of them. From a man named Mason. Guess who just bought her coffee? That night, I slept on the couch without telling her why. She didn't ask. She said she had a long day at the office and went to bed early. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I waited. Waited for the moment. Waited for the setup. Waited until she thought I was still clueless. And then, on a sunny Saturday, while we were cleaning the garage together, pretending like we were still partners, I turned to her, held up a dusty box of decorations, and said as casually as I could. Did you ever plan on telling me what happened in room 403 at the Fern and Fig? She dropped the wind chime she was holding. And I swear to you, her face turned ghost white. That's when I knew. She had no idea I already knew everything. She didn't say a word at first. The wind chime she dropped didn't shatter, it just spun on the concrete like it was too stunned to break, like it was waiting to see if this was real. I stood there, holding the old Christmas wreath in one hand and the weight of a marriage in the other. She bent down slowly, like if she moved too fast, the truth would collapse all around her. Room 403, she repeated, like she hadn't heard it correctly. But her voice was tight, not confused, not curious. Defensive. I didn't respond. I just looked at her the way you do when someone has lied to your face so many times you've forgotten what their honest eyes used to look like. I could see it in her expression, in that subtle shake of the head, not a no, but a denial of reality. Like she was already preparing the rewrite of events. She straightened up and crossed her arms. "What are you talking about?" she asked, too calmly. Her mouth was still playing a character, but her eyes were full of static. I didn't raise my voice. That would have given her power. Instead, I placed the wreath down on the table, walked past her, and calmly opened the box she always said was full of old receipts and junk. I pulled out the envelope. The "just in case" one. I didn't hand it to her. I opened it. Read one sentence. Then another. Then I looked up and quoted it, word for word. "You smelled like peppermint and rebellion. I haven't stopped thinking about that elevator kiss." Her knees buckled slightly. She reached for the wall, steadying herself with the kind of grace you'd expect from someone who's lived a double life long enough to know how to recover mid-scandal. But this time, she was slow. Shaken. Not polished. The mask was slipping and even she knew it. "I can explain," she muttered. That's when I laughed. Not loudly. Just a quiet, tired laugh, the kind that escapes when you've rehearsed a scene so many times in your head that the real thing feels smaller than it should. "Of course you can," I said. "You're really good at that." She looked hurt, and for a second, I almost felt bad. But then I remembered the lasagna. The laugh at the window. The juice bar bag. The months of pretending I was still her choice when I'd become her fallback. She tried to take the envelope from my hands, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said. I read all of it. Every line. Every hotel confirmation. Every note signed M. She stared at me like she'd forgotten who I was, like the man standing before her wasn't the one who'd built bookshelves with her, nursed her through the flu, stood by her father's casket. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, eyes glassy. "That's the thing about betrayal. It's never the initial wound that guts you. It's the script they try to recite afterward. The rehearsed remorse. The convenient forgetfulness. The way they make their choices sound like accidents. It got complicated," she added, voice cracking. I sat down on the dusty garden bench in the corner of the garage. My knees suddenly felt weak. I wanted to scream, throw something, walk out, but I didn't. I needed her to talk. I needed to hear the truth from her mouth, not from Mason's poetic garbage printed on hotel letterhead. So I asked her the same question again, this time slower. "When exactly did I become the background noise in my own marriage?" And to my surprise, she answered. Not with tears. Not with begging. But with the kind of hollow honesty that comes after you've already accepted what you've done can't be undone. She told me it started 2 years ago. She met Mason at a textile conference in Vermont. They sat next to each other during a panel on sustainable weaving techniques. She said he made her laugh, really laugh, something she hadn't done in a while. One drink led to another, one dinner led to one night in room 403, and then, well, it became routine. She said she didn't plan on keeping it going. She said it was supposed to be a moment. But apparently, moments now come with pet names and late-night emails and birthday messages that weren't from me. She was crying by then. Saying she still loved me. That she didn't want to lose me. That it was a mistake. And that's when it hit me, I wasn't mad because she fell for someone else. I was mad because for 2 whole years, she let me think we were fine. She let me keep pouring love into a vessel she'd already abandoned. And worse, she took my silence as permission. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the wind chime, still lying there. Still unbroken. And I wondered, what would it take for it to finally shatter? I didn't sleep that night. I don't even think I blinked. I just sat on the old recliner in the den while the grandfather clock ticked like it was trying to bury me in time. She went upstairs. Said she needed a moment. That moment turned into hours. I could hear her pacing above me, then stopping, then pacing again. A rhythm of regret, maybe. Or maybe it was just the sound of someone realizing their escape plan had a flaw, me. I didn't go after her. The house felt haunted in a new way now. Same walls, same photos, but every picture frame suddenly looked like a lie. Our wedding photo on the mantle. Staged. Our trip to the Grand Canyon. Staged. That picture of us at some distant cousin's baby shower, arms around each other, smiling like we were invincible. Staged. What made it worse wasn't just that she cheated. It's that she still expected me to keep pretending. The next morning, she came down dressed like it was any other Wednesday. Hair tied back. That green sweater I always said brought out her eyes. And I noticed she wore the necklace I gave her on our 20th anniversary. The one she hadn't worn in almost a year. A symbol, maybe. A peace offering. I didn't say a word. She poured coffee for herself. Then, with a long pause and no eye contact, she asked, "Do you want some?" I stared at her hands. Perfectly still. No tremble. Not a single shake. "No," I said. "I've already had enough to keep me awake for years." She flinched. Good. I finally stood, walked to the sink, and placed my cup down, calmly. I had no interest in throwing things or shouting. I think the scariest part for her was how quiet I was. People expect explosions. What they're never ready for is someone who's finally emptied out. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the morning sun coming in sharp through the blinds. I could feel the warmth on my face, but none of it reached my chest. That part of me had gone cold. "So what now?" she asked. 3 words. As if that would be enough to clean the wreckage. As if this was just a logistical issue to be sorted over pancakes. I pulled something from my pocket. A photo. A printed one. It was the hotel lobby. Mason standing beside her. His hand on her lower back. Both of them laughing. Completely unaware of the young man with the camera on the second floor who took it, someone I paid $200 on a private subreddit just to confirm what I already knew. I slid the photo across the table. She didn't touch it. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. It was like her throat forgot how to form words now that the script had changed. "Why?" I finally asked. "After all these years, why him? Why this?" She looked up at me. And her eyes, which used to be filled with stories and affection and sparkle, were now just tired. Empty. Maybe even relieved that the mask was finally off. "Because he made me feel noticed," she said quietly. He listened. That's when I lost it. Not visibly. Not loudly. But internally. 1,000 pieces snapped. Noticed? I remembered all the things I noticed. The way she curled up on the couch with that ridiculous blanket she insisted on keeping even though it smelled like storage. The way she used to hum while chopping vegetables when she was in a good mood. The way she bit the side of her cheek when she was nervous but pretended not to be. I noticed all of it. For 27 years. And she gave herself to a man who probably doesn't even know what color her eyes are when she's angry. I stood. Walked upstairs. Opened the closet. And that's when I realized, her suitcase was already half-packed. She'd planned this. She was never going to confess. She was just waiting for the right moment to disappear without looking like the villain. A trip. A retreat. A break. Something soft to soften the betrayal. I walked back down with her suitcase in my hand. She gasped. "What are you doing? You wanted to feel noticed." I said. "Congratulations. I've never seen you so clearly in my life." Then I set the suitcase beside her chair, and for the first time in nearly 3 decades, I said what I'd been too scared to admit. "You're not my home anymore." And I left. Not the house. Just the kitchen. But that was the beginning. The first quiet act of war in a battle she never thought I'd fight. The suitcase sat in the hallway for 2 full days. She didn't move it. Neither did I. We didn't speak much. Not out of anger, but because neither of us knew which version of ourselves we were supposed to be anymore. Husband and wife. Roommates. Strangers divided by decades of shared history and one man with an espresso addiction. She still made coffee each morning. Still buttered toast. Still walked barefoot across the tile like the floor hadn't shifted beneath us. It was like she thought if she played her part well enough, the show wouldn't get cancelled. But the script had changed. I wasn't reading my lines anymore. On the third morning, she sat down at the breakfast table with a yellow legal pad and a pen. I knew that pad. She used it for everything: budgeting, holiday menus, charity events. Now it was her shield. I've listed out the logistics, she said without looking up. If we separate, we can keep things calm. No lawyers unless necessary. You can stay in the house. I'll go to my sister's. I sipped my coffee slowly, watching the steam rise between us like a wall. You've already talked to your sister? I asked. She nodded once. Quick. Guilty. Before or after you dropped the wind chime? She winced at that, and I took a weird comfort in it. Proof she still had a soul buried somewhere beneath all that composure. I wasn't going to leave without talking to you first, she whispered. You were, I corrected gently. You were just hoping I'd make it easy for you. Her fingers curled around the pen. She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. Smart. She slid the list across the table. It was neatly organized. Dates, accounts, storage unit codes, insurance details. She'd spent more energy organizing our divorce than our last anniversary. I didn't touch it. What do you want me to do with this? I asked. I don't know, she said. I guess I thought, if we handled it like adults. You mean quietly? I interrupted. So no one has to know you burned down a marriage and left without smelling like smoke. Her eyes flashed. That's not fair. No, I said. You're right. Fair was 27 years ago. We're way past that now. She stood. Walked to the sink. Her hands trembled slightly as she rinsed her mug. The crack in her armor was showing now. And I knew, deep down, she hated that I wasn't shouting or begging. She needed me to either fight or collapse. That's how she wins. But I didn't give her either. You don't have to be cruel, she finally said, her back still to me. And you don't have to lie, I replied. There was silence again, but this time it was heavier. Like the house itself was holding its breath. I'll go tonight, she said. I didn't stop her. That afternoon, I found her in the guest room, folding sweaters she never wore, as if preparing for an emotional climate she couldn't quite predict. She looked smaller somehow, hunched over the bed, trying to fold guilt into neat little piles. Can I ask you something? I said from the doorway. She nodded, still facing away. Did he ever ask about me? She paused. Then sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. No, she said. He didn't. That stung more than I expected. I didn't need Mason to respect me. I just wanted to know if she ever made me real in that parallel life she created. If I was more than just an obstacle or a punchline. But apparently, I wasn't even that. That night, she left around 7:40. No hug. No tears. Just a soft goodbye and the wheeling of her suitcase across the wooden floor. I watched through the front window as she drove off without glancing back. I didn't move for almost an hour. When I finally sat down, it wasn't on the couch. It was on the floor. Right there by the door. Like a kid waiting for a parent to return. Pathetic, I know. But when you've spent nearly 3 decades as someone's anchor, it's hard to tell if you're sinking or floating once they let go. Then, I noticed something. A key. She left her spare key on the hallway table. She wasn't planning to come back. Not to visit. Not to collect more things. Not even to say a final goodbye. She had officially made me history. And I was just now realizing. I had let it happen in chapters. Slowly. Silently. Every time I ignored a red flag. Every time I accepted her excuses. Every time I convinced myself that love meant staying even when the air turned poisonous. So I stood up. Walked to the attic. Pulled down the box with all the birthday cards she gave me over the years. And for the first time in months. I read them. Line by line. Poem by poem. And every single one of them sounded like it was written by a woman I never really knew. 2 weeks passed. The house adjusted faster than I did. Her slippers by the door were gone. The drawer in the bathroom that used to overflow with makeup and tiny hair ties was now just air. Even the refrigerator stopped holding her presents. No oat milk, no pre-cut pineapple, none of the things I only bought because she once said she liked them. You'd think that would make it easier. But it just made the silence louder. People always assume that after a separation, there's this massive, cinematic breakdown, crying on the kitchen floor, screaming into a pillow, throwing wedding photos into the fireplace. But the truth is far more boring. It's the empty coffee filter that doesn't need replacing. The 2 pillows on the bed that suddenly feel excessive. The default music playlist that now feels like it belonged to someone else's life. I had just started falling into this sad little rhythm when the phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. I developed a habit of avoiding numbers that weren't already buried deep in my contacts. But the number called again 5 minutes later. Then again. Something about it was off. Persistent. Cold. Like it needed to be answered. So on the 4th ring, I picked up. Hello. A pause. Then a woman's voice. Calm. Professional. Too polite for comfort. Is this Mr. Ernest Calloway? Yes, I said, heart already tightening. I'm calling from Dr. Pembry's office. Your name was listed as the emergency contact for a Luana Calloway. We need to confirm some details regarding her intake and her condition. My mouth went dry. Her condition. There was another pause, longer this time. I'm sorry, she didn't reach out to you? No. No, she didn't. I haven't spoken to her in over 2 weeks. The woman lowered her voice. Mr. Calloway. Luana checked herself into our facility yesterday. Voluntarily. She was found disoriented in a cafe parking lot and was brought in under concern of dissociative behavior. She requested privacy, but your name was on her file from a previous incident. I'm afraid we're required to inform you in case of escalation. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, holding the phone like it had personally insulted me. Is she okay? I finally managed. She's stable. But confused. Repeating things. Sometimes forgetting entire days. She's been experiencing episodes, possibly stress-related. We're still evaluating. I gave them whatever information they needed and hung up. Then I just sat there. Everything she had done suddenly felt like it was orbiting something larger, something I hadn't seen. I didn't know whether to feel furious or ashamed or devastated or nothing at all. Because if I was honest, I didn't know her. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. I spent the next few hours pacing the house, replaying every moment over the past 6 months through a new lens. Her sudden mood swings. The increased need for silence. The journaling. The long showers. The moments she'd stare at the wall like she was searching for a door no one else could see. Was it all part of something deeper? Or was it just another manipulation in disguise? Then it hit me. The emails. I ran upstairs to the cabinet where I'd hidden the printed pages from the envelope. I read them again, not as a betrayed husband this time, but as someone looking for signs. And sure enough, they were there. In between the flirting and romantic lines, there were strange sentences. Things that didn't quite fit. I know you're not real, but you feel better than the quiet. I think Ernest is starting to hear the echoes too. You always meet me in the same dream. I had read those before and chalked them up to emotional weirdness. Maybe artistic embellishment. Now, I wasn't so sure. The last page wasn't signed M at all. It was signed L. Had she written those to herself? Had Mason even existed? I felt sick. Like the ground beneath me had shifted again. Not in the direction I expected. Not toward resolution or revenge. But into something sadder. More unsettling. Like I wasn't the only one who'd been abandoned, maybe she had abandoned herself a long time ago. And I never noticed. How do you forgive someone who broke you if they were already broken? That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the attic again, surrounded by those birthday cards. But now, they weren't lies. They were desperate attempts to hold on to something slipping away. I think I cried then. Not because I lost her. But because I finally understood. I never had her. Not fully. Not completely. And maybe no one ever did. I didn't rush to the clinic. That probably makes me sound cold. But it wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I had no idea who I was walking in there for. My wife. The woman who lied for 2 years. The woman who might have never even cheated, or might have only done so in her mind. I needed more than a diagnosis. I needed clarity. 2 days later, I found myself sitting in the visitor parking lot of Pembry Behavioral Wellness Center, gripping the steering wheel like it owed me answers. The building was too cheerful, pastel walls, soft glass doors, trimmed bushes out front like it was trying to trick you into believing nothing inside was broken. I didn't know what I expected, but it certainly wasn't the artificial peace this place gave off. I walked in. Signed my name. Gave the receptionist a nervous half-smile I didn't mean. And then I sat down. The waiting room smelled like tea tree oil and faded lavender. Someone had left a jigsaw puzzle half-finished on the coffee table. Beside it, a small bookshelf filled with titles about mindfulness, grief, cognitive rewiring. A few magazines, dog-eared and outdated. The clock ticked softly, as if even time didn't want to disturb anything in there. And then, he walked in. I didn't recognize him at first. Not really. He wasn't how I imagined Mason. No smug face. No hair gel. No tailored coat. He looked normal. Jeans. Hoodie. Tired eyes. About my age. Maybe older. He sat across from me with a quiet sigh, glanced at the receptionist, and then rested his elbows on his knees. I kept staring. It couldn't be. Could it? Excuse me, I finally said, my voice barely louder than a whisper. Are you Mason? He turned slowly. His brows drew together. Do I know you? I introduced myself. Gave him my last name. Luana Calloway's husband, I added, waiting for the reaction. But there wasn't one. He looked puzzled. Genuinely. I don't know a Luana, he said. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Too big for that little room. I didn't believe him. So I pulled out my phone. Opened the photo. The one from the hotel lobby, him with his hand on her back. This you? He leaned in. Squinted. Then frowned. That's me, he said slowly, but I don't remember this. I stared at him. You don't remember being in a hotel with my wife? No, he said firmly. I don't. That's not the kind of thing I'd forget. But that jacket, I haven't owned that in over a year. That photo's old. And I've never met anyone named Luana. I didn't know what to say. Everything I'd believed, every theory I'd chased, every sleepless night I'd spent imagining the two of them sneaking around, suddenly felt flimsy. Made up. Like I was the one spiraling now. You're sure? I asked. He nodded. I'm here for my sister. She's in recovery. Schizoaffective disorder. I visit every weekend. I know everyone in the outpatient rotation. I'd remember her. My stomach turned. If Mason wasn't real, who was she writing to? Later, I was escorted to her room. A nurse named Corinne gave me the rundown. Luana was cooperative. Quiet. Journaling a lot. Responding to treatment, but still foggy. Still drifting between moments. When I entered, she didn't look up. She was sitting by the window, wearing a pale blue sweater I hadn't seen before. She looked peaceful. Not happy. Not sad. Just floating somewhere in between. You came, she said without turning around. I did. A long pause. I saw him, I said. That got her attention. She turned her head slightly. Mason? Yeah. In the lobby. He doesn't know who you are. Her smile was small. Bitter. I know. The room dimmed in my chest. You know. She nodded. He was real once. Just, not like you think. I sat down across from her, my legs shaking under the weight of this entire new world she was about to open. I met him at the conference. Like I told you. But we never spoke again. Never exchanged numbers. He brushed my hand while passing me coffee. That's it. My mind, it just started filling in blanks. The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. You imagine the rest? I asked, barely able to speak. No, she said softly. I believe the rest. She turned the journal on her lap toward me. Pages filled with handwriting, some neat, some chaotic. Doodles. Circles. Words repeated dozens of times. Then a line that caught me like a hook through the chest. I wish I had told Ernest the truth before I forgot what truth was. My throat closed up. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she whispered. I was trying to stay anchored to something. Anything. He was a fantasy. But you were the real thing. And I lost you. Long before you knew it. I didn't know what to say. Or feel. Or even think. For so long, I had chased a villain. Hunted for facts. Built a case. A betrayal I could point to. And now here I was, staring at a woman who had been unraveling quietly in front of me while I was busy tracking a ghost. You never kissed him? I asked finally. She shook her head. Not even in reality. I stood up slowly. You wrote letters to him, I said. She looked down. I know. You lied to me. I know. You forgot me. She met my eyes. And I'm trying to remember. That night, I didn't sleep again. But it wasn't anger that kept me awake. It was the question I couldn't escape. If the betrayal never happened, why does it still feel like I was broken anyway? The day after that visit, I told myself I wouldn't go back. Not because I was angry. Not because I'd made some firm decision. But because I felt like I had reached the edge of something, and I didn't know whether the next step was a fall or a flight. The idea that Luana had created an entire affair in her mind, down to the emails, the hotel, the scent of another man's skin, it was so out of reach, so far from the woman I married, that part of me wondered if maybe I had just invented her too. The next morning, I got a call from her sister, Daphne. She never liked me much, and I wasn't exactly her biggest fan either. Too sharp around the edges. Always looked like she was analyzing you, not speaking with you. Still, I answered. She's asking for you, she said. She's writing more. Talking more. She keeps mentioning a question you asked her. Something about when you stopped being her home. I rubbed my eyes. Yeah. I asked her that. She won't stop writing that line. She's filled 2 pages with just that sentence. Over and over again. I didn't know how to respond. She also mentioned the box, Daphne continued. Said she left something behind in the attic. Did you find it? There was no box. I'd cleaned every corner of that attic after she left. Every dusty shelf, every bin, every suitcase that hadn't been unzipped in years. No, I told her. There's nothing. Daphne was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Ernest, did she ever tell you about her hospital stay back in 2002? I froze. What hospital stay? You didn't know. It wasn't a question. My hand started shaking. She was admitted for 48 hours, Daphne said carefully. Stress-induced dissociation. She'd collapsed in the bathroom at work and couldn't remember where she was. Said she thought she was 19 again. They kept it quiet. She made me swear not to tell you. Said she didn't want to scare you off. Back then, you two were just starting to get serious. I sat down hard on the kitchen floor, my back against the fridge. The same fridge where she used to tape silly notes. The same fridge that now held nothing but expired yogurt and the echo of an entire history I never got to see clearly. She's been carrying this for that long? I asked. Yes, Daphne said. And she's been unraveling ever since your mother passed. You probably didn't notice. She got better at hiding it. But I think that loss tore something open in her. She didn't grieve the way we expected her to, she got quieter. Then the journals started again. I remembered now. The journals. She said they were for work ideas, textile designs, classroom projects, inventory notes. I never once opened them. Never questioned it. I thought I was respecting her space. But maybe I was just looking the other way. That night, I went back into the attic. I searched for the box she mentioned. And just when I was ready to give up, I noticed the air vent on the back wall. One of the screws was newer than the others. Shiny. Almost untouched by dust. I grabbed a screwdriver and opened it. There it was. A metal cookie tin. Inside, letters. Dozens of them. Some addressed to Mason. Some addressed to me. Some to no one at all. And at the very bottom, folded like it had been hidden in shame, was a yellowed envelope with no name. Just a date. May 17, 2002. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A discharge summary from Northfield Psychiatric. Diagnosis, dissociative amnesia. Triggered by emotional trauma. Patient history suggests previous undiagnosed episodes during adolescence. Attached was a sticky note, in Luana's handwriting. If you ever find this, I hope it's because I told you myself. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I wanted to be whole for you. I just didn't know how. I sat there in the attic for hours. Holding a part of her I never knew existed. A part of her that she buried beneath years of smiles, traditions, routines, and silence. Suddenly, all of it made sense. Why she cried during commercials and blamed the lighting. Why she got jumpy at fireworks, even though she pretended she wasn't startled. Why she forgot where she parked her car once and laughed it off even though I could see the panic in her eyes. She was fighting something bigger than me. And she didn't want me to see it. Not because she didn't trust me, but because she didn't want to become too real in my eyes. She wanted to stay the version of herself I fell in love with. And when that version started slipping, she built a fantasy instead. Not to escape me, but to protect us. But fantasies can't be shared. They just unravel when you try to hold them too tightly. That night, I packed a bag. Just one. A change of clothes. A notebook. And the cookie tin. I didn't know what I'd say to her when I saw her again. But I knew one thing for sure. The betrayal I felt wasn't about infidelity anymore. It was about the fact that I had been living beside a woman who was disappearing, and I never saw it happening. The morning I returned to Pembrey, the sky was unusually bright. The kind of sharp, cloudless blue that dares you to feel anything but clarity. I stood outside her wing for nearly 20 minutes, clutching the cookie tin like it held the beating heart of our entire marriage. In some ways, I guess it did. When they brought me in, Luana was sitting by the window again. Same pale sweater. Same stillness. But her eyes shifted the moment she saw me. Something sparked, recognition, relief, or maybe just readiness. She stood slowly. I noticed her hand tremble slightly on the armrest, but she steadied herself. "I found the box," I said quietly. She nodded, her lip twitching like she didn't trust it to smile yet. "I figured. I read everything." She lowered her head, bracing for shame. But I didn't scold her. I didn't ask for explanations. I simply walked over and handed her the tin. "I wish you'd let me carry this with you," I said. Her hands hovered over the lid, then pulled away. "I thought hiding it would protect you from the version of me I didn't want you to see. Turns out that version was the one I needed to know most." She sat down, slow and deliberate, like the floor beneath her might give out. I sat across from her again. No table between us this time. No distractions. Just us, and what was left of us. "I don't know how to be honest without falling apart," she whispered. "Then fall," I said. "I'll still be here." And for the first time in what felt like forever, she cried. Not the quiet, embarrassed kind of tears she'd grown used to hiding. This was different. Full-bodied. Unfiltered. She wept like someone who'd been holding in too many truths, too many versions of herself, too many empty rooms she had built inside her own mind to survive. And when she reached for my hand, I didn't hesitate. "I want to come home," she said. "You already are," I answered. It took time. The kind of time that doesn't fit into neat storylines. We didn't skip into some romantic rebirth or pretend things hadn't cracked. But slowly, gently, we rebuilt. Not our old life, that version was gone. But something new. Something real. Luana began therapy. Real therapy. She let me read her entries. She started journaling for herself, not for fantasy. She spoke my name like it was a lighthouse, not a shadow. And I, for the first time, learned how to listen without trying to fix. One day, months later, I came home from the grocery store to find her in the kitchen. The table was set. Candles lit. A card waiting on my plate. I opened it with shaky hands. It wasn't a poem this time. Just one sentence, written in her familiar, slightly slanted cursive. "Thank you for seeing me when I disappeared." I couldn't speak. I just reached across the table, and she reached back. We were no longer husband and wife in the way we used to be. We were something else now. Two people who had lost each other in plain sight, and then, somehow, found a way to meet again. Not perfect. Not polished. But present. And sometimes, that's enough. Thank you for being here, friends. This has been one of the most deeply human stories we've shared on this channel. Now it's your turn. In the comments, tell us. Have you ever seen someone disappear emotionally before your eyes? What did you do? Have you ever been the one disappearing? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next confession. This is Reddit Confessions, where every story reveals more than you expect.